Okay.
Come.
I'm on the line here with my friend from Australia that's agreed to be the country manager for our attempted move to Australia out of this fucking war zone called Ukraine. And the discussion was, I had mentioned the idea of the drone technology that's part of the Thunder Ghost portfolio. And I had given indication that I had a design manufacturer ready for a drone that would allow you to airlift a 53-foot reefer trailer anywhere, anytime, at 600 miles an hour. And he had asked me how, or what the energy consumption was on that, or something to that effect. And to that end, I'd like to try to explain a little bit of that so that people can understand me. So, not needing to introduce myself because of the recording on the screen that says that I'm part of the trust that I own, I won't worry about boring you with details of my life, but again, but I will tell you that regarding this conversation, the best way to describe the energy requirements for a drone that can airlift a loaded 53-foot trailer, and it has to be specifically the 53-foot reefer trailer, because I couldn't imagine having a non-environmental controlled box flying anywhere at 600 miles an hour. It didn't make a lot of sense. So the refrigeration or climate control was an issue, and we also added in the pressurization technology that allowed for humans to be transported inside that same box. And once I realized that these were feasible things to do using the tools that I've been part of my whole life, with the understanding that I was one of the idiots that wrote the Scorpion graphics editor, which was the original raster vector technology ever created. And I was also the guy that taught the computers how to print by creating the drivers, and I was also the guy that taught the computers how to produce video cards by producing the drivers. I've basically been the guy that lets the computer talk to the machines my whole life. As a black box reverse engineer, ComSec guy under contract. And it has put me to a point today where when you're speaking about the technology and the portfolio and the relationship to the drone technology, what you have is, as a custodian of the periodic table and the metals and minerals of it, you have a single variable to solve the energy problem, and that's the understanding of the synergistic effects of the combinations that are available within the periodic table. And see, we've failed miserably at how we've accomplished that task. And the way that we know it, if you reduce the entire world to 5-micron particles, which can be done very quickly using a computer, what is the percentage ratio of each compound that would be realized from the periodic table in all of its variants? So when you start running those numbers in your brain, being the computer guy, you start approaching the quantum realm very quickly. Hence, it's a follow-on. In other words, the original problem presented to me was based on an idea. I'm sitting in a wheelchair and a guy walks into my office and says, "Brian, let me ask you a question." And it's that very same set of variables that I've just given you. Guy walks into my office and says, "Brian, let me ask you a question." That started happening to me at a rate of about 150 times a day, the whole time I was in the wheelchair. And then it started happening 150 million times a day. And then it started happening a billion times a day. And then I could remember all the questions and the answers. And then it got really scary. So it's within this type of environment that I realized the arrangement of the existing periodic table of metals and minerals in a specific way, you will permanently solve the energy problem. But before you can do that, you have to catalog and index the assets that exist, because once you create a state, if you will, and in the instance of this being a state, would be a state of matter. In other words, what would the container look like? What would be the effects of the changes of the variables, of the percentage mixtures of the compounds as they were being produced? What would be the effect of the environment? Because you're worrying about the environmental impact of testing. It's a pretty standard thing. Safety be first. And ironically, looking at the screen, you've got all of the parts and pieces that's required for any test, because we also realized we were making a lot of money being the testing environment. So coming back to the drone and how it all ties in one more time, I had to learn to be a pilot before I could understand the problem. But I'm a guy in a wheelchair with multiple sclerosis in one hand. And then it occurred to people in the military one day that I had more flight time in simulators than any pilot in the entire fucking world. Just because I was the guy writing the fucking programs. That's the truth.
I beta tested this. I've seen everything when it comes to planes now.
Yeah. So then you have to wait for years for the rehabilitation and the medicine and the doctors and everything, the cajole, everything you do, the exercises, the pushing yourself, there's doctors and their damn medicines and all this crazy stuff, and the crazy people that are exploiting you because they just want your money, because you get money from the government because you're a disabled guy. That's all that ever happened to me. I mean, I was so happy to be at a point where I could actually sit down and design something. And see, Uncle Sam paid for all that. I started my own business from a fucking wheelchair. Now coming back to the drone and why it matters, this random nature of the way I'm speaking through this entire conversation associated with the drone, it lends itself to how solving the energy problem became relevant. Because if you understand a variable of what would be the cause and effect of, as an example, you say, well, audit would be gold for the purposes of this demonstration, administration would be iron for the purposes of this demonstration, and legal would be copper. What percentages of those three things could you produce that would be a composite material? And if you go back and you look at the composite technology that's currently produced today, it was an old file on a computer built in 1983 that was stolen by a defense contractor. That's how it came to be. You say, well, why would you jump all over the place with this different way of speaking? Because that's what it took to solve the problem with the drone. Because if you understand the drone that can pick up a 53-foot loaded trailer, what do you need to know about what that drone's going to do? You got to know where it's going. And you got to know what the weather is. That's all. See, if you know what the weather is and you know where it's going, then you know how to get it there, right? Well, if you got to tell the computer what the weather is, what do you have to do so that the computer understands the weather? You had to build a fucking weather monitoring system. Oh, wait. Well, the GPS system is a lie. It doesn't work normal because it's radio co-location. It's based on the radio coordinate system. Oh, you can't tell them that. Well, why not? Well, because they do have the space programs, and they're very effective in what they do for getting technology into the world, and they help a lot of troubled minds understand the world that they live in. I said, what's your point? You gotta lie to them? Well, no, we don't lie. All the world's a stage. This was a conversation I had when we were discussing how in the hell you track anything, anywhere, anytime. Because see, that was the ultimate variable they kept throwing in my lap every time they called. Let me ask you a question. So you're getting paid to answer questions. Do you care? I didn't. But we also understood something else. Because we were sitting in a wheelchair and we just knew more things about documents than other people, because we built the document scanning technologies and the document management systems and we took the blueprints off the paper and put them in the computer and then told the machines to draw the damn blueprints out of materials. That's all we did. And of course, the whole time all this stuff was going on, what was happening? The people I was working for were stealing from me. And the problem was, they always forgot I was U.S. Army. It's the truth. That's what happened. And most of the time I was so busy I didn't really care. I just didn't care, because once you know how to make money, it don't matter. But I always kept notes. And then one day I had so many notes, I was angry. I said, fuck it, I'm done. Cleaned out an office where I had set up. I was literally taking myself home. I said, I'm done. I don't want to do no more. I got enough money. And I had stuff thrown out on the floor, and the guy looked at it and says, man, do you see what you're looking at on the floor there? I said, what? He said, I don't know what you just did, but that's pretty cool. You need to take a picture of that. I said, nah. He said, well, look at it. And laid on that floor was all the stuff when I was cleaning out one of my offices to go home. Was the parts and pieces for what today is called RTAP. It stands for Real-Time Active Passive Tracking. So we took a tracking module, we took a manufacturing module, and everything. In other words, what did I do? I took everything I got paid to build. I had my own copy of it. They forgot when they picked up what they were supposed to pay me for that they never fully paid me for. They forgot that I delivered an electronic file to them that was created by me, and that I was U.S. Army Signal Corps, and because I was U.S. Army Signal Corps, I could always find the file. So that's what we did. We just kept being who we were. We kept broadcasting the data we were supposed to broadcast, and we kept recording the data that we were supposed to record, and we kept waiting to get paid. And they never did pay. So every time we'd have a problem, we'd just move on to something else, because we was already under contract and we had money. We just didn't understand why every time we'd meet a milestone, nobody would deliver our final payment. And it went on that way for many, many years. And then before I know it, there's a 4-star general standing in my living room in the house that I bought to bring my Ukrainian wife and child home to. And a few amounts of time went by, and I had $1.9 billion to do whatever I wanted to do with. I turned it into $13 billion, and I spent that money to design the Thunder Ghost drone network and the SciNet network. The SciNet network is liquid space. That's all it is. How ironic is it? You see it in the movies and stuff today. Terminator. See, there really is an undercurrent of people in the abuse child networks of the world. All of the people that manage children in government. They're all fucking crazy. I know. I watched them my whole life. They lie, cheat, and steal, and exploit children. And I realized, you're not going to do that anymore. Because when you get successful in business, and I've been successful in business, I just wanted to do something to help people versus the bullshit they're doing today. So we mapped the planet in 3D, created a global network design, and then created all of our own custom applications to go on top of it. All of it. In summary, I reverse engineered the global communication system and created my own version because the one that was out there didn't work normal, and under the laws of the world, as a signals integrity analyst, I'm one of the ones that have authority to do that. So coming back to the energy problem one more time, if you've built a new network and having mapped the planet in 3D with the ability to overlay all systems of monitoring that would affect a flight that was controlled remotely, what would you have? Well, we already know what we have. You see baby versions out there in the wilds today. Remote controlled drones that they have in the air services today. Uncle Sam and other militaries of the world, they're building remote controlled vehicles. Hell, they've been doing it ever since they created the airplanes. I mean, hell, they had remote control B-52 bombers that they would fly out across the ocean and shoot the motherfucker down just because they could. See the irony of being a military guy. You just grow up and you get to play with all the cool toys. That's all that happens. It's like a little green army man. For me, I was one of the guys that grew up with the little plastic green army man. Then I wrote the program that lets you do the same thing on the computer. I actually did that. I actually using the game engines that we wrote, they created the Army Men game. You can go be the little green Army Men. Did you know that?
Huh.
They do. They have them. Like Army Men games, they absolutely do have them. It's like the Army Men games. You never seen? Let's see. Yeah. Well, wait. Images. You see? You never seen that? You never seen those? I help.
Seeing cartridges for this in the video store, video game section when I was a kid. Back when neither of those existed.
Yeah, well, I'm the guy that wrote shit like this because when I was a kid, we had the green men's for real. I mean, we had the plastic version. You know?
I've got some of the actual little Army Men here at my house as well. A little grenadier sitting on top of one of our speakers.
So coming back to the drone.
Energy problem.
But there isn't an energy problem because what you do...
There ain't lack of.
Well, what you do is you understand you can't use a liquid fuel. And you can't use battery technology. So what you do is you produce a solid fuel that is comprised of a percentage of metals and minerals from the periodic table that is assembled to produce heat that controls a condenser and hydraulic array, with the understanding that hydraulics when exposed to heat, produces variance of pressures, and if the variance of pressures are associated with the hydrodynamics, if you will, which is what you would be looking at, you would wind up with a solid fuel enabled turbine, basically. That modifies the temperature and pressure of the materials in a containment array that allows for the movement of impellers. And these impellers produce additional pressures, not unlike they do with the turbochargers, that allows you to reach an equilibrium that you can see in any adjustment of a flame. Funny thing about watching a flame, particularly an acetylene torch, if you will, the cutting torches from the metal realm of cutting. When you first light the fire, right, and then you change the gas mixture, what are you really doing? People believe you're just changing a mixture, but you're not. You're changing pressure. And the reason you're changing pressure is the different materials have different weights, and the diameters of the mechanism involved in this case would be the tip of the torch. In most torch environments, they're static. They're not reactive metals. Can we agree with that? I mean, they are reactive to a certain degree, but they have a form, and
reactive in this case,
and they retain that form. Well, the act of implementing a metal array that has, for lack of a better term, servo-enabled facets, I guess that makes sense to explain. Servo-enabled facets of a metal face. How many variants of a propulsion jet could you arrive at, and what shape would allow you to arrive at an equilibrium? An equilibrium is required in what? Well, all you're really doing with an aircraft is producing lift. And in a drone's environment, what is it you're actually doing? You only need to push an impeller. If you activate an impeller using a closed loop gas pressure system, I do believe you've eliminated your power curve. In other words, the damn thing don't need refueling. There's nothing to exhume, if you're following me. A shaft-driven impeller doesn't need an exhaust vent if it's done correctly, and that be where the use of energy becomes null. That's why I was saying to you, it's not about energy. If it's a closed loop system that produces pressures that drive an impeller, then there is no energy consumption. Can we agree with that? See, the energy is only defined based on an implosion or explosion event. Do you understand? When you're traveling down the road at a particular pace, whether you be bipedal, modal, walking upright, or whether you be on wheels, what are you doing when you move? You're piercing an environment. The resistances that you feel, it's not fucking gravity, it's simple things. friction, mass, and simple things. If you hold a guitar string in your hand and you pull on the son of a bitch while you're holding it tight, it's going to cut you, isn't it? Well, what actually happened when it cut you? It's these types of environments that matter when you're looking at engineering today. They don't look at it, they go, oh, we need an engine. Oh, we need a battery. Well, what is an engine? What is an engine?
A means of producing joules of energy.
No, it's not. No, it's not. An engine is simply geometrics. An engine is simply, example, combustion-based engines, if you will. What do they actually do? They spin a rod. That's all they can do. That's all they do is they spin a rod. Literally, that's all an engine does. And in this particular case, the rod would be called a camshaft or a crankshaft. So think about a spinning rod, if you will. Well, why are there protrusions on the rod? Well, in other words, why is there a piston on the rod? The piston slows down the movement of the rod because it's not symmetrical. In other words, the connector of the piston to the crank it's not very, it's not logical. It doesn't make any sense. You're going to pour a liquid into a mechanism that's based on friction, cause an explosion, and think you're going to maintain a momentum. You're not. You're not controlling anything. You're polluting the world. Has anybody ever thought about the variance of the combusted material coming out of the exhaust pipe and what effect it has on the different environments it moves through? Then you calculate how many billions of tons of that crap has been shot at the tailpipe of anything that man sticks a motor on. It's fucking insane, man. That's not how you do energy. Energy's fluid motion. That's all energy is. It's fluid dynamics. They don't remember. So that's talking about the energy consumption. Energy produced by a human, it's based on fluid dynamics, is it not? I mean, there's no fucking, no matter what they tell you, there's no explosions going off in your heart. Is there an electrical field? Sure there is. There's also a magnetic field. So what's the difference between the two? Not a whole lot, sir. They just make you believe it is. To that end, moving something at 600 miles an hour with a combustion engine or an electrical engine's total fucking madness. It's absolute fucking insane. I don't care what nobody says. It's just not the way the real engineering world functions. Not if it's designed. I mean, a bunch of fucking hacks is what they've done to the archives of history. Fabricated flight. And hell, we knew how to do these things. They just don't fucking remember because all the criminal assholes in the world over the centuries have locked shit up and just hide until they can figure out some fucking crony to reverse engineer something. Wouldn't that be truth? Ain't no fucking aliens, it's just shit that humans have done before. And that'd be true. To that end, bring him back to the drone. Fluid dynamic, metals, composites. So well, why would you use metal composites? When you want to reduce the friction, you can do that using an assembly of metal composites. You'd have zero friction. Well, imagine a rod that's suspended in a zero suspension. How much energy would you have to convey to that rod to start it moving, and why does it ever need to stop? Because of a combustion? Because of a braking event? Doesn't make any sense.
Well, if you're using that energy to generate lift or thrust, then yeah, goodbye energy, because you've used it dispersing it into the air, turning it into lift or thrust. Well,
Yeah, well,
you've made something a lot more efficient by removing the friction from it.
if you produce
Friction from the air around you.
if you produce a simple pipe, if you will, that contains and I say pipe, if you produce a bearing and you stick a shaft in that bearing and there is zero friction between that bearing and that shaft, what can you do? I submit to you, you can spin that fucking shaft forever. So why stop it? Well, the reason they stop it is because they can't build a bearing that is they cannot build frictionless bearings. I don't care what they tell you. You can't do it. And the reason they can't do it is they haven't bothered to look at the periodic table and the synergistic effects of the elements contained within the periodic table. Because the data shows that if you arrange the periodic table elements in a particular percentage formula, if you will, you can produce unlimited heat, unlimited light, and unlimited motion, just by simply arranging things that exist on the fucking ground. And that's what they don't want you to know. And they go out of their way by doing very interesting things, like redrawing lines on the map whenever it suits their fancy, or whenever somebody gets in trouble because they told something they weren't supposed to tell. They do other things by causing conflict and strife to keep you away from the right to travel for a very simple reason. This need for this documentation and this need for everybody to be known by everybody is very simple. We let the cat out of the bag a long time ago. My job and yours is to be simply who we are. We're going to continue to follow the terms and conditions of the contract associated with the technology. And how ironic we talked about the drone, because the drone is relevant to what we're doing. It absolutely is. Why? Everybody knows I used to be a fleet owner. I mean, I was. In addition to everything else I was. I'm also a CDL license holder. Also a licensed commercial driver. A licensed hazmat carrier. Licensed ammunitions carrier. Anything to do with transportation. On the ground. I've done it. I've owned it all. Okay, so my point is talking about the drone. If you've ever spent 6 months in the cab of a truck, and I have, then you understand the real world. As a matter of fact, I spent 800,000 miles plus in the cab of a truck, running a computer business at night and driving during the day, or vice versa, whichever suited my fancy, because I work for myself. I've never had an opportunity to do anything but work for myself, and why it matters today, talking about the drone, is one of the things I learned being in the trucking business for as long as I was, and then coming back out into the computer realm the way I did, because that's what I do. I would, as long as I was mobile in America, I could go fishing if I wanted to, if I wanted money. I could go write a program for somebody if I wanted money. I could drive my truck if I wanted to make money, or I could do anything I wanted to do, because in America I could do that. I could go anywhere I wanted. Then I come to other parts of the world and I realize I can't do that. I'm like, well, I know how to get over that. The money is in the aviation industry after I learned to fly, because people used to pay me to fly a fucking airplane. It's fucking blowed my mind. It was worse than somebody paying me to drive a truck. Are you kidding? You mean to tell me I can go spend $100,000 on this fucking beast that does 150 miles an hour, rolling down the road at 45 fucking tons, and you're gonna give me money for doing that? What part of okay don't you fucking understand? Yeah. Huh? Oh, wait a minute. You want me to get in this airplane and fly it over here and you're gonna pay me? Okay, let's go. People are stupid. They would rather sit their ass at home in a fucking box that don't belong to them, on a piece of ground that don't belong to them, being told by somebody that they owe somebody something that they don't, plugged into a fucking computer, whining, bitching, and complaining about the world that they live in, or they're being stoned and don't give a fuck. That's all we've accomplished collectively. So the drone technology does what? It makes people say, wow. I mean, don't you see what's really going on with the technology? Why is all this stuff creating the individual mentalities of the humans? Because there's a greater truth. And this is why the drone technology matters. We've already erred severely, no matter what these motherfuckers in government will tell you, sir. We've erred. The ohm rating of the planet is fucked. And when I say planet, I mean the plane that we live on and all the inhabited areas of humanity. The electrical feedback from the infrastructure that we deployed is affecting the human genome. It's also affecting the organic life sphere. It's been doing that a long time. It's not our fault. It is our fucking responsibility. And there ain't a whole lot of people in the world that understand what the fuck I just told you. So you gotta keep it in perspective. You can't go around telling everything to everybody, because there's some shit that people just don't need to know. The world's a pretty fucked up place as it is, so you just want to be as happy as long as they can. That's what you see looking down at the world as a chessboard, and that's what I do. I look at 263 sovereign realms as a fucking chessboard. Then I helped other people learn to do it the same way. So the end game is clear. 5-micron powdering technology, the data center network deployment, and the drone technology be the only thing that matters. And of course, along the way, the need to focus on clean water, clean food, the roof over everybody's head, and the ability for them to travel in these drones that I'm going to produce. Because I do. These assholes that are in these commercial airline industries, these motherfuckers are history. They just don't know it. The arrogance of these criminal bastards. Private aircraft companies treating people like cattle. Okay? For paying them to be a driver. It's fucking insane, man. The shit that we've done to the buyer. To the human. We're gonna strip search you to put you, wait a minute. You're gonna pay us money for us to fucking strip search you, catalog index you, and track everything you do as a condition to fly from one point of this planet to another. You know what I say? I say fuck them all. The aircraft industry does not belong to the government. It never has, it never will. No other industry belongs to the government. It never has, it never will. Less than 5% of the wealth that is known by the world. That's a fact. So what do? I say just give it back, man. Make the world smile. Are you kidding? I want to see the day that a guy, a 13-year-old kid, can sit down and say, I want that. And he clicks a button, and that fucker is printed and it's right in his face. That's the day I want to see. I want to see the day that a man can walk up to the wall in his house and say, I want to see Zimbabwe at 2 o'clock in the morning 35 years ago. And boom, you're standing there looking at it. Do you understand?
Sit there at 3 o'clock in the morning,
yeah.
3.5 bottles wine down, looking at your window going, show me my ex-girlfriend's house 5.5 years ago at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Well, there you go.
So I can sing sad songs to myself in front of my house when
well, there you go.
in front of her house.
There you go. All of these things are within the realm of possibility.
The rules.
All of these things are not speculation. All of these things exist today on this planet and people don't even understand it. The technology to do what I've said exists. I know, I built it. I've been paid to build it. Now I have to turn it on.
I know, because it's my technology.
I think that's a pretty good summary for talking about stuff today. I'm gonna stop this recording, I think, after 42 minutes. Okay, here we go.